From FedEx Forum and the American Home Shield Studio, this is The Odds Couple on GrindCityMedia.com. Handicapping all the football action, here's Rob Fischer and Lang Whitaker.
Hello, good people. Welcome to The Odds Couple.
We're back.
Hey!
6 feet away.
It's good to see you, though.
Me too.
And it's good to see Roser, good to see people in person.
I knew there was a reason we always kept Roser behind the glass.
That's right. We are safe. We are safe. We got our wipes, everything.
I'm going to come breathe on you.
Welcome to The Odds Couple, and it's good to be back. Finally have some sports going on, and sports you can bet on with the NFL draft coming up this week. But since we've been gone, so much has happened, of course. When we talk about sports, so much has happened, obviously. But when we talk about our lives, so much has happened. And maybe the biggest thing that has brought 34 million people together was the Tiger King, right?
Unbelievable.
So before we get started on the draft, I wanted to give a couple of odds. There are odds you can bet for the Tiger King. Tiger King Joe Exotic. He will receive a presidential pardon by January 20th of 2021. You can get plus 850 on yes.
I know that Trump was asked about it and didn't know about it, so
It's by 2021
yeah,
now.
I don't
So
know.
you got
I
time.
feel like that might be the Rubicon there. I don't know if we're crossing that barrier.
Carol Baskin found guilty of killing Jack Lewis by December 31st of this year. Yes, plus 1,000.
I feel like it's been whatever 15 years since the guy disappeared or however long it's been.
Right.
And we don't know anything yet. I mean, this has certainly accelerated things and put a spotlight on things, but I don't know if they're going to find anything in the next 6 months. So.
And Doc Antle charged for killing tiger cubs by December 31st, plus
I don't know,
850.
but when they make the movie, Will Ferrell has to play that guy.
No
Right?
doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
I watched the first episode of that thing, and I got about 30, 40 minutes into it, and I was like, I can't watch this. This is just, I can't watch it. Turned it off, and somebody texted me and was like, stick with it. And the next night I picked it back up, and I was like, okay, now I'm in.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but
Yeah.
toward the end of that first hour, it was
something else.
Yeah.
NFL draft this week. It's going to be a different NFL draft, obviously. And what's crazy on the betting circuit, they're saying as of a week ago, there was already 3 times the total handle for what you had a year ago. They expected to be 2.5 times larger than last year's betting for the draft. They're saying the betting handle could be as big as like a marquee NFL game, like a Monday night game, a Thursday night game, a standalone game, good matchup, that this betting handle for the draft could be similar.
I saw today that an executive from ESPN said that people are watching about 1 more hour of television a day than before all this started, which seems crazy low to me, right? Like everyone's watching way more TV than they were before. And they were saying because of that, though, they're expecting the ratings of this thing to possibly be around like an NFL playoff game level ratings for this draft.
And they're always big. NFL, whatever they do is big, but that's ridiculous.
Last year
enormous.
they had about 6 million viewers, they said. And this could be way past that. Although, as we're taping this right now, I just looked. They did their mock. The NFL ran a virtual mock draft to try it, like technically, and it crapped out at the first pick. So we'll see how this thing goes.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thursday night, round 1. Friday, rounds 2 and 3. Saturday, rounds 4 through 7. The last 5 drafts, a quarterback has been picked first 4 times. The lone one was Myles Garrett, who was not a quarterback. Fewest quarterbacks taken in the first round of a draft have been 2 in 2015. The most 5 in 2018. Looks around 4 being the number possibly this year.
I think it might go a little lower than that. I think in general this draft, I mean, this is clearly just anecdotal, but I think that teams are going to play it safer than you would think, just because since
you don't know as much.
Yeah, since the combine in Indianapolis, like nobody's had a chance to be in person with these guys. I mean, from what I'm reading, like all the draft experts can't even like get in touch with the GMs and the scouts to talk to them because people don't know how to work Zoom and all this stuff.
And you know how scouts and coaches work.
Sure.
If there's one little glitch.
Yeah, they're like, oh, stay, except for the Giants.
Right. But now not being able to find out what those glitches are.
Yeah. So I think in general, my thought is teams probably are going to play this thing a little safer than we expect.
Quarterback Joe Burrow expected to go number 1 to the Cincinnati Bengals. The question is, will Joe Burrow go to the Bengals? Here's Burrow when asked if he would go to Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm not going to not play.
I'm a ball player. Whoever picks me, I'm going to go show up. It's 2 hours, 15 minutes from my house, and I could go home for dinner if I wanted to. Not a lot of pro athletes could get to do that. With any quarterback, fit is really important, but you don't have a lot of say in that in the draft. You know, whoever picks you, and you got to go play. So I'm going to try to make whoever picks me work. I think that my skill set is really diverse, that can fit in a lot of different schemes. So I'm going to try to be the best player I can for whoever drafts me. Yeah, of course I want to be the first pick. You know, that's every kid's dream. You know, I've worked really, really hard for this opportunity, and I'm blessed to be in this position. And a lot of people helped me get here. So I'm just really excited to be in this place.
Minus 2,200, Burrow is to be the first pick of the draft. Cincinnati needs a quarterback. They're
Tiger
the first
King.
pick. I mean, Tiger King, Joe Burrow. In more ways than one, he goes from the Tigers to the Bengals.
Exactly. He's going there. I mean,
It's done. I mean, right?
Yeah. And I would think, I mean, he should be their starter day one, right? Like, if he's got this much time to sit at home and look at a playbook and play Madden or whatever they're doing, like, why can't he start right now and just be ready by the time the season starts?
And according to the experts and those who are around the game of football, they believe his transition might be easier than any of the other quarterbacks. So if his transition's easier than anybody else's, well, then just transition into being the starting quarterback.
I mean, it's also like I mean, what are they going to be worse than they were last year?
Right.
You know, like, let him play.
Right. The second quarterback or third quarterback taken, Justin Herbert of the Oregon Ducks, could be third. Many were expecting him to be the third quarterback taken behind both Burrow and Tua, but Herbert getting a lot of love here recently, in fact, possibly to these Miami Dolphins. Here's Justin Herbert on the draft.
I haven't read too much into it, and so that's something that I don't know too much to comment on at this time. I know that I've been doing my best to continue to become a better quarterback, do everything that I can to fix my game, and whatever happens in the draft happens, and I'll be just excited to play football. I think anywhere that I get drafted would be special. I want to play this game as long as I can, and in doing that, I'm going to do everything I can to do that, and so I'm going to get better, learn, and continue to play football. Over the course of my career, I feel like I've had enough success, and I feel like I am confident with my abilities that playing at the next level is something I want to do. I want to play this game as long as I can, and when I'm done playing, I want to coach. I want to be around this game for as long as I can, and whether it's long enough or not, I'm going to be ready when it comes, and just excited to be here.
I think you can get some value on Herbert being selected in this draft if you're like myself, and I believe he's the second quarterback taken, and there are no moves to move up ahead of the top five, that he would go 5 to the Miami Dolphins. And if you'd like that, Herbert plus 350 as the second quarterback taken. Also, or under the 5.5 on draft position is plus 170. So you can get some good value on Herbert if he's the second quarterback.
What's up with the Dante Culpepper?
Dante Culpepper Dolphins jersey? You like?
Yeah.
You know what? We always talk about how the Cleveland Browns quarterbacks it's embarrassing, the list of quarterbacks they have. How about since Dan Marino? Yeah. Saw this today. Here are the quarterbacks of the Dolphins since Marino. Jay Fiedler, Gus Frerotte, A.J. Feely, Dante Culpepper, Joey Harrington, Trent Green, Cleo Lemon, Chad Pennington, Chad Henne, Tyler Thigpen, Chad Henne, Ryan Tannehill, Jay Cutler, Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I thought they had the Lucas guy, too.
May have. Let's see.
Ray
Lucas.
Matt Moore, Brock Osweiler.
The wide receiver /
Josh Rosen, John Beck, Cleo Lemon.
Cleo Lemon.
Sage Rosenfels, Ray Lucas.
Yeah, there it is.
Damon Heward. I mean, these guys all have started games for the Dolphins since Marino. Man. That's the whole list, the entire list.
To me, the thing there is the last guy you named was Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? So if you draft a Tua and he comes in, he's not 100% healthy, give him a year. Fitzpatrick can play quarterback for a year. You're going to get another high draft pick.
Or draft Justin Herbert and give him a year.
Either one, but if whoever you're going to draft is going to have a year to sit, to me, then the move is Tua, because we saw him when he's healthy. He was the best quarterback in college football, but bar none. He was better than Joe Burrow when he was healthy, and then since then he's had little injuries here and there, and he's never had 18 months to sit and get healthy. So if you're going to have a guy come in and sit, have the guy who statistically is maybe one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time to come in and play instead of Herbert.
Yeah. Tua Tagovailoa could be the second quarterback taken in the draft.
Say it again.
Tua Tagovailoa. I just like to call him Tua, basically. I don't know why I even tried with the last name. Tua talks about his rehab and also his chance in the NFL.
This rehab process has been it's been gradually getting up as far as workouts with what we've been doing. So just strengthening all the parts around the hip, the glute, the hamstring, the quad. As a competitor, I want to be able to play. But you look at a lot of the guys that are really good and a lot of the greats, they've been mentored by big-time quarterbacks as well and veteran quarterbacks. So, if a team needs me to go out there and start for them, I'll do that. But if they need me to sit behind someone and learn from them, I can't see what's wrong with that as well.
Roser, you remember SEC Media Days.
Yeah.
It was my big take that whole week was Tua scares me. I didn't pick him to be the first quarterback all-conference. I didn't pick Joe Burrow either.
Right.
But I didn't pick Tua because of injuries scare me. I'm terrified of this guy. I don't want any part of him, and if I'm looking for a quarterback in the draft, I hope if I'm Miami at 5, I hope someone moves up before me to take Tua because I don't want to be even tempted to take him because the guy's spent more time in the tent the last 2 years than he has on the field.
Well, you said your exact quote was that he's soft. That's where I debated.
I questioned whether or not is he soft. That was my question.
His injuries have been real injuries. Like they're severe injuries.
I just brought it up here. I'm just curious. What are the injuries? Right? He's had 5. This is according to Forbes. Notable injuries over 3 years.
3 years.
One of them was a broken left index finger.
Soft. 0
games missed because of that. One was a sprained right knee. No games missed. Left high ankle sprain, which it was after the SEC championship game, and he played in the national championship game. Right. And then the hip. So the hip's like the real one. That's a severe thing that was bad.
But then you question, does his style also make him get hit?
Maybe.
Make him more prone to injury.
Peter King wrote a thing today about how a lot of these guys look at the injuries. I think I just went mute. A lot of the guys look at the injuries and say, oh, well, maybe, he's getting targeted a lot because he's the best player on the team. And I'm like, well, if you can't stay healthy behind Alabama's offensive line, I don't know if it's going to get better in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
That's an NFL offensive line. So I don't know. I just feel like there's guys who are injury prone, right? And through no fault of their own, they get hurt a lot. Tua might be one of those guys. Maybe in the NFL.
That's my glitch.
Maybe in the NFL, though, he can play through a broken left index finger or a sprained knee or whatever it is.
Yeah. He needs stronger bones. Didn't drink enough milk.
That could be it, yeah. Second quarterback taken Tua -500 there. If you want to put him at the third, again, if you think Herbert gets picked before Tua, Tua being the third quarterback taken is +750. So a lot of value there. Also, Tua over-under is 3.5 on where he's selected in the draft. There's a bet that was placed yesterday, a big bet placed yesterday on him going to the Bucs at +8,000. That Tampa would draft him to put him under Tom Brady.
But doesn't it feel like, think about it the other way, him replacing Tom Brady in New England? Like that feels like a Belichick thing, right?
Yes.
Or the other one that I think and we're going to talk about him I know in a second, is Jalen Hurts going to the Patriots, like with a second round pick, something like that.
Yeah.
That feels like something that Belichick would also do and try to get a guy in there who you could argue he had to save Tua and help Alabama win the title.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the guy.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts will be very interesting as well. We'll talk about him. We'll talk more about Tua when we come back. Lance Taylor, our friend Lance Taylor, who joins us here on The Odds Couple, he'll join us to talk a little about the NFL draft and some of the SEC players going in the NFL draft. We got much more. We got picks coming up a little bit later on as well. It's The Odds Couple. We're back after this on Grind City Media.
Whether you're first gen or next gen, go next level and renew your fandom for the 2020-2021 season and guarantee your seats for our 20th season in Memphis and enjoy newly reimagined MVP 365 member benefits, gifts, and rewards. Plus, be entered into our largest renewal lottery yet with prizes like trips with the team and more. Call 901-888-HOOP and press 2 to get in before the deadline and get next level today.
For the first time in 25 years, the Doobie Brothers, Tom Johnston, Michael McDonald, Pat Simmons, and John McPhee, 50th Anniversary Tour. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees, the Doobie Brothers, with special guest, Dirty Dozen Brass Band. FedEx Forum, Saturday, October 17th. Get tickets now at LiveNation.com.
Welcome back to GrindCityMedia.com, live from FedEx Forum and the American Home Shield Studio. Now, here's more of the Odds Couple, Rob Fischer and Lang Whitaker.
Go next level and become a 2020-2021 Grizz MVP season ticket member. Pick the best seats at the best prices. See your Grizz face the Lakers, Warriors, and more with the Grizzlies 2020-21 season tickets. MVP season ticket members get exclusive access to events, seat upgrades, discounts on gear, and more. Season tickets start at just $9 a game. So go secure your seat and place a 20% deposit by calling 901-888-HOOP or click online grizzlies.com today. Welcome back to the Odds Couple. Rob Fischer, Lang Whitaker with you. John Roser here as well. We got some picks coming up here in a little bit. Alabama had a couple of quarterbacks to pick from over the last couple of years with Jalen Hurts and Tua. Nick Saban, who has coached both, talks about his former QBs and what they bring to the draft.
Well, there's a lot of guys playing in the NFL now that are having a lot of success, that are similar style players to, Jalen, guys that can make plays with their feet, and I think you know who they are. So I think that success of those players has kind of broken the stereotype of you got to be a drop back passer, and this is the only way you can win in the NFL. Tua's got a great spirit about him, very well liked by his teammates. He's got really good leadership qualities, and I think everybody likes the fact that he's very talented at his position, and he makes a lot of plays, and he's going to represent any organization in a first-class way, and just a great player, great person.
Nick Saban on his two QBs.
One name that I saw, or a team that I saw that could be in play for Hurts, and it's really, when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, would be Baltimore. If he could come in and back up Lamar Jackson, then you wouldn't have to tweak the offense that much for him to do the things he does best, to come in and be a second-string quarterback there.
Very interesting. Joining us now, he's the host of the Roundtable on WJOX in Birmingham. He's also on Twitter at the Lance Taylor. Lance Taylor joins us here on the Odds Couple. Hello, Lance.
Hey, good afternoon, fellas. It's been quite a while.
Yeah, it sure has. And things have, we're not going to ask you what you've been up to, because I think we're all up to the same stuff here recently.
Yes, a lot of couch and a lot of Netflix, a lot of drinking way too much.
That's right.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page.
Lance, I brought up in our last segment talking to Roser about when we met at SEC Media Days and talking about Tua, and the thing that always scares me is his health, and obviously that came to fruition this past season with the serious injury at the end of the year, with not being able to have workouts, with not being able to do as much as far as, finding out about these players from teams. How much does that hurt Tua, do you think? Or do you think teams would be satisfied enough with how he's progressed to this point?
Well, I think it is going to hurt him to a point. I mean, how much, we don't know. I still believe teams are so desperate to get a franchise quarterback, and we know when Tua is healthy, he plays like an elite quarterback. I mean, he's got the talent of a guy that could be a Hall of Fame guy and win multiple Super Bowls. He's that good when he's healthy. But, and I truly believe if he was 100% and we had never seen Tua go down, I think Cincinnati, although Joe Burrow had maybe the best season we've ever seen one season in college football, and he's an Ohio kid, I still think Tua would go in front of Joe Burrow. But because he's had the injuries, and you think about the last couple of years, you go back to the SEC championship game against Georgia where Jalen Hurts had to come in because Tua wasn't 100%. And then last year, Tua goes down against Mississippi State and didn't even play in the Auburn game or the rest of the year. For that matter, actually ended his Alabama career. He just hasn't been there towards the end of the year and for the most important games. So if you can't stay healthy for a 12-game season in college football, I don't know how in the hell you're going to stay healthy for 16 in the NFL.
Yeah.
So if I'm a general manager, and I've heard multiple guys that are former general managers, Mike Tannenbaum, who was with the New York Jets, and Michael Lombardi, who was with the Cleveland Browns, both of those guys have been on record saying they wouldn't take Tua. With all that said, fellas, I still think, at 3 with Detroit, whether they trade out or decide to ultimately get Matt Stafford's backup, or worst case at number 5 with the Miami Dolphins, I think he's going to come off the board in the top 5.
What kind of quarterback's Jalen Hurts in the NFL?
Well, that's a good question, Rob. I don't know. I think he's a much better prospect after going and playing for Lincoln Riley. I don't think there's any denying that.
Yeah.
I've seen him as high as number 49 to Pittsburgh, which is really intriguing. I think he does have the intangibles. I think he has improved the accuracy over at least the last year, what we saw in the Big 12. The windows are obviously going to tighten up a lot more when he gets to the NFL, but he's a freakish athlete, so he'll definitely I'd be shocked if he falls past the 3rd round. Most people are saying 2nd round now, but, ultimately, how good of a starting quarterback will he be in this league? I have no idea. I know he'll get that opportunity, and I think a guy like Taysom Hill, who in my opinion was just an above-average quarterback at BYU, but can do so many different things. That might be the role, immediate for Jalen Hurts, and then ultimately he might turn into a starting quarterback.
Joe Burrow, I mean, it was so shocking what he did last season. And the thing was, when you look back, he almost looks like he's an NFL quarterback already. I mean, do you view him, because of that season, it was enough to make him the number 1 pick overall in the draft. Is it enough? Is he a franchise guy? Can he be the guy that's going to lead the Bengals somewhere?
If he plays like he did last year, as you said, the dude's 6'5", he looks the part. 60 touchdown passes, almost 6,000 yards, and he completes over 76% of his passes in the SEC en route to 15-0. And I don't remember him having a bad game. The only thing that concerns me is it was Joe Brady's offense, and there had to have been something there, because I go back 2 years ago, and Joe Burrow, to me, was just an average quarterback. And you look at him in 2018 against top 25s, he really struggled. But, again, if we're just watching tape from last year, he was unbelievable, airtight. And I'm fascinated. Both of those guys that we're talking about, I'm fascinated to see if Tua can actually stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, I've got no doubt that he will be an elite quarterback. I don't think he can stay healthy, though. And Joe Burrow, can he be as consistent as he was last year? Ultimately, that might happen. I don't think it's going to happen his first year or two. But, boy, if he plays anything like he did last year, he looks the part of a franchise quarterback, too.
Outside of quarterbacks, when you look around the SEC in this first round, who are some guys that stand out as being franchise-type players?
It's crazy when you look overall at the SEC, and the over-under right now on guys selected in the first round is 14.5, which is, it's every other pick.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And, I've seen mock drafts, and when you put them together, I've seen 7 guys out of LSU go in the first round, and I've seen 7 guys out of Alabama. With all that said, we mentioned Tua. He could be one of those guys. Jerry Jeudy's got an unbelievable skill set and was a dominant receiver for multiple years. I think Henry Ruggs, his athleticism is crazy. Justin Jefferson, if we're just looking at wide receivers. Grant Delpit, defensive back out of LSU, kind of took a step back last year, but, there's a good chance he'll still be a first-round guy. A guy that I fell in love with towards the end of the season for LSU, Patrick Queen. Just a linebacker that was all over the field, especially in that championship game against Clemson. And a guy that will not go in the first round that could end up being a running back for 8 to 10 good years and could be a 3-down back is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He was kind of that secret weapon. Everybody talked about, Joe Brady and Joe Burrow and all of these wide receivers for LSU. Nobody talked about Edwards-Helaire, really. And you go back and you watch the game in Tuscaloosa against Alabama, and he was the difference. But I think he's one of those guys that he can ultimately be a franchise guy.
Lance, always a pleasure, man. Thank you much for joining us. Stay safe, and we hope to talk again soon.
Enjoy the draft. At least we have something in real time that's legitimate, so it should be fun to watch.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Lance.
See you guys. Okay, bye.
All right, Lance Taylor joining us from WJOX in Birmingham. I mentioned running back, another guy that we both like, Georgia's DeAndre Swift. Might not be a first-rounder. If so, maybe late first round, certainly early second round. Top 40 pick, definitely, I think, in this draft. I think he could be a really good one.
I think he's going to be really good. I think I would take him. I don't know where Jake Fromm's going to go. I was thinking about that as Lance was talking about Hurts. I was thinking, do you think Fromm goes ahead of Hurts?
I don't know.
There's a guy who had.
There's another guy who. How much did he really show you?
I don't know. He showed us he knows how to check down. That's all we saw.
Right.
So I don't know, but to your point, DeAndre Swift, I think is the best running back in the draft. He can come out of the backfield, catch the ball, can run, fast, physical, can do everything you ask for. I just don't know where he goes. And at this point in the NFL, all these teams running backs are almost interchangeable, and they've been devalued to a certain extent. So maybe he ends up as a second-round pick, something like that.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting as well. The first 2 picks seem pretty much set in stone. Joe Burrow going number 1. Chase Young's going to go number 2. Chase Young, defensive end from The Ohio State University, talking about his talents and going to the Redskins.
I definitely think I'm the best player in the draft. I think I showed it on my tape. You can go to every game. I think I showed it. I definitely think I put my best foot forward this year. I grinded hard. Two of my biggest things are hard work and dedication, and I'm gonna bring those two to the NFL with me. Yeah, I watch the game. I always watch the Redskins, hometown team, just because growing up being around the Redskins. I mean, that's really why I always watch the Redskins, just because I grew up around them. I never really had a team. I would always just be a fan of players. You know what I'm saying? Growing up, I was always a fan of Sean Taylor, Clinton Portis, and people like that.
There you go.
Never had a team.
That sums up perfect his generation. They're fans of
I had fantasy teams.
It's the Devin Walker thing. I'm fans of players.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah.
Did you see that Chase Young's having a draft party, and they're only going to allow, I think, 10 people in the house.
Right.
And then they're going to project the draft on the side of the house, and people who can't come in the house can drive up in their cars and stay outside the house and watch the draft.
Well, that's kind of neat.
Kind of cool.
He is. It's a lot like last year's draft too, where like obviously the quarterback's the most important position, so the quarterback goes number one. But if you look at the rankings of the prospects, much like last year, like Nick Bosa was ranked as the number one player in the draft, and he goes number two. That's kind of how it is this year. Chase Young is ranked as the number one prospect in this draft, but because he plays defensive end and not quarterback, Burrow will go number one.
Number 3 seems like the one that all of a sudden things could get screwed up. Jeffrey Okudu seems to be the guy who's most have in their mock drafts going number 3 if everything were to stay the same. But this could be a place where someone moves up in the draft possibly.
Detroit is right there at 3, and if that's the guy they want is Okuda, then they know if teams are trying to trade up to get Tua or they're going to trade up to try to get Herbert, well, we could just trade back and get our guy at 5 if we want to, or get him at 6 if we want to. Why take him at 3 when we could just move back and get
For
more
what it's
assets?
worth, Detroit has not drafted a cornerback in the first round since like 1988 or something like that.
Wow. Well, their general manager is Bob Quinn. He talks about what they want to do with the number 3.
We have to look at everybody. We can't just concentrate on one or two positions, so we'll concentrate on all the positions, the best players in the draft, the best players in college football. And I'm not going to get into my evaluation of all the quarterbacks at this stage. I think I'll keep that to myself, but I think there's a number of players at all the positions that are definitely worthy of the number 3 pick. If I do get calls, it might not be for quarterback, it might be for another position. So I think I have to look at that too and see what the overall value of all those positions are, because I'm not eliminating any position right now. It's something we're just trying to make our team better. And if that's taking the best player at number 3, it's great. If that's moving back and acquiring extra picks this year or in the future, that's something that you got to have to consider too. So everything's kind of on the table right now in terms of that. So
I think they've done a good job. One, their biggest need is cornerback, but like you said, they haven't drafted one with first pick since 88, something like that. Then defensive end, offensive line. Those are the needs. But I like the idea that they have thrown out there a lot of quarterback. I mean, Matt's getting up there.
Jake Fromm would be perfect.
I would also say for them, you're picking 3rd in the draft. You probably need a lot. Right? It's probably a lot.
Your need list is a little longer than others.
You're not picking 3rd because you just had a bunch of your whole team got injured last year. I know Stafford had injuries, but you're picking 3rd because you probably need a lot.
Yeah, and like you said, cornerback, you could move down a few spots, and even if your quarterback's taken, then you could also get offensive line, which is a huge need for that team.
Which is why
they can move.
If Miami wants to move up, I mean, would Miami's got 3 first-round picks. Would they be willing to part? Obviously, 5. You'd want 5 from them, but would they be willing to part with one of the other first-rounders? And if you can do that, then why not?
But if you're Detroit, wouldn't you call Miami and the Chargers and be like, look, if you guys need one of these quarterbacks, whoever wants one, give us the best offer. We'll flip-flop with you and take something else down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll take a break here on the Odds Couple. When we come back, we'll have a couple of other sound bites of some guys who are very confident in themselves. Love that this time of year.
Is it us?
Well, yeah, because we're going to have our picks, too. That's all coming up here on the Odds Couple on Grind City Media.
Whether you're first gen or next gen, go next level and renew your fandom for the 2020-2021 season and guarantee your seats for our 20th season in Memphis and enjoy newly reimagined MVP 365 member benefits, gifts, and rewards. Plus, be entered into our largest renewal lottery yet with prizes like trips with the team and more. Call 901-888-HOOP and press 2 to get in before the deadline and get next level today.
For the first time in 25 years, the Doobie Brothers. Tom Johnston, Michael McDonald, Pat Simmons and John McPhee 50th Anniversary Tour. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees, the Doobie Brothers. With special guest, Dirty Dozen Brass Band. FedEx Forum, Saturday, October 17th. Get tickets now at livenation.com.
Welcome back to the Odds Couple on GrindCityMedia.com. Live from FedEx Forum and the American Home Shield Studio. Here's the Odds Couple, Rob Fischer and Lang Whitaker.
Hey kids, looking to work on your hoop game while practicing social distancing? Well, check out Grizzlies Youth Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for daily junior NBA at home videos. Improve your skills using minimal space and equipment while learning from a wide variety of instructors such as Jaron Jackson Jr., Grind City Media personalities, and Grizz Camp coaches. That's at Mem Grizz Youth on Twitter. That's Mem Grizz Youth on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So we welcome you back to the Odds Couple. Rob Fischer, Lang Whitaker with you. John Roser here as well. Obviously, it's going to be a different virtual draft this year. Before this happened, before the pandemic happened, there were odds out for this draft that were pretty interesting. Like, will Roger Goodell end up in the water of the Bellagio fountains on draft day? Yes, you'd get plus 1,000. And will any first-round draft pick end up in the water of the Bellagio fountains? That was a little lower at plus 215. I think people certainly would think somebody's going fountain diving.
I could see Goodell dressed like Alan in The Hangover. The glasses, the beard.
Just straight on into the Bellagio. Yeah, that would be fantastic. Jon Gruden's always fun to listen to, and boy, does he love players. And he love wide receivers.
Yeah, here's a guy.
This is a wide receiver class. 6 wide receivers in the first round in 2015. 2 or more have been taken in the first round in each of the last 5 drafts. Some are saying as many as 6 receivers in this first round, yet not in the top 10.
Yeah.
Maybe 10. But that's going to be a lot of receivers that are going to go.
A lot.
After that.
I mean, and all of them play on the same team, it feels like.
Yeah,
right?
no kidding.
Yeah.
And then I heard Mike Martz, former coach of the Rams, on a radio interview talking about he thinks there are 8 receivers in this draft who will be number 1 guys. That's
interesting. Charlie Casserly said he thinks there are only 2 number 1s in the
Really?
draft. He thinks Judy and Lamb are number 1s, and he's like the rest of it, he's like they're all number 2s behind him, but there are a lot of them.
I think Ruggs is better than Judy. I know I'm in the minority there.
And
but
some believe. I mean, Justin Jefferson's made a huge.
Justin Jefferson was amazing.
Jump on
I think
everything.
he was incredible. He might be better than both those guys. So,
Jon Gruden, head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders.
That's weird.
Couldn't believe I got that right on the first try. He talks about this wide receiver class and drafting a potential wideout.
It's very impressive. There's some real playmakers, big guys, quick, thick, fast twitch guys. There's a variety of receivers, and there's some guys that can return the football as well. It's a strong part of this draft. I think it's as strong a wide receiver class as there's been in a while. Unfortunately, we felt we added one of the best receivers in the league a year ago. He had frozen feet. Then we thought we had the best free agent receiver, and he had fried feet from plantar fascia. So the feet were a problem for us last year. So we would like to add a great receiver, certainly, but we got to improve our defense, and we'd love to add firepower to the offense and certainly to the defense.
Thick, fast twitch guys is how you could describe my
Big.
pandemic.
Yeah.
Thick, quick, fit
guys. All right. A couple of linebackers think that they're pretty important for this draft. Isaiah Simmons is a guy. His over-under on draft slot is 6.5 from Clemson. He's very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's
linebacker.
a team I could see somebody trying to trade up into the top 5. And they said, Chris Mortensen said today, the Falcons are trying to get up in the top 5. I wonder if that's somebody they got interest in.
Here he is talking about why the National Football League needs him.
If you know who George Kittle and Travis Kelce are, then that explains it all. Stopping tight ends and linebackers playing man on running backs is like the game's no longer a 250-pound linebacker. Like it's more of guys that can run side to side and that are able to cover, because it's just such a necessity now with the tight ends and running backs. I would do everything I did in college, kind of like a Swiss Army knife, move me around, because then I'm really able to show what I can really do. Because I wouldn't say I'm really tied down to one position. So Coach Venables, he really used me in a really special way that most people aren't able to be used, and I think it's really beneficial for me. I know, like, years ago it wasn't good to be a positionless guy, but now it's became a benefit for me, just for all the versatility that I'll be able to do, play linebacker, play safety, whatever it is. I feel like it just helps me out.
There you go. Isaiah Simmons. I have him going 7 to the Carolina Panthers. 7 to the Carolina
Stay
Panthers.
Home. Let him stay in the Carolinas.
So if you're looking at his over-under, that would be over 6.5.
6.5.
Over 6.5 for him. K'Lavon Chason, LSU linebacker as well. He's got the K and then the apostrophe, Lavon, so that's cool.
His name rhymes.
And his name rhymes, which is cool. Yeah. And he also believes he is the best player in this draft.
I know I'm the most valuable player in the draft. I mean, as far as when you're starting up a business, do you want to hire people who speak one language or you want to hire people who speak 3 languages, 3 or 4 languages? A lot of players in this draft that you can feel like we're in the same position. They are a one-dimensional player, and once you stop their game, it's kind of a less impactful person. And I feel like if any way one of my games ever gets stopped, I got 3 or 4 other games that impact the game very well.
I mean, it depends on what the job is.
What kind of business is it? If it's a translating business, I would want people with multiple language skills.
I mean, like
if I'm picking a linebacker, I don't care how many languages they speak.
And how many French people are in the NFL?
I don't know why that was important.
How many Italians or Chinese, Japanese? Like how many are in the NFL?
As Lance mentioned, the over-under for SEC players in the first round is 14.5, and with 30 teams, that is quite remarkable. The over -160, meaning that they believe basically it's going to go over 15.5, under +120. That is remarkable.
Yeah.
That's our conference. It just means
crazy.
more. Yeah. All right, time for
they're the best at cheating.
Time for our picks this week. I'll go ahead and start. My fish is 5. The third pick of the draft, I think it'll be Jeffrey Okudah, which is good because you could get him +130. It's the number 3 pick, and he's you could go under the 4.5. That would be -130. Tua's team. I am going with the LA Chargers at number 6. The round for Jalen Hurts. I'm going second round. I'm going Pittsburgh Steelers. Be a guy for Jalen Hurts. Alabama against the Big Ten in the first round. Who will have more? I like Alabama. Although the Big Ten's got 3 in the top 10, Alabama has just 1 probably in the top 10. The Big Ten is a -185 favorite there. Also, Tigers drafted. Memphis Tigers drafted. 1 for sure in Antonio Gibson, and I think there are 3 fringe guys. I'm going to go the over 1.5. I think it'll be 2 for the Tigers.
You and I agreed on pretty much everything. The only difference really with me was Tua, I think, going to Miami. And we talked about it earlier, but you got Fitzpatrick there. You let him sit for a year, get healthy. If he's healthy, like Lance said, like this is historically one of the best quarterbacks college football has ever seen. Give him a chance. Let him get healthy and play.
All right. Also, Roser. What do we have for Roser's wagers this week?
I think Tua's going to go 3rd overall. I think it's going to be a battle between the Dolphins and the Chargers. Just back and forth.
Who's going to deal up?
Somebody's going to deal up for him, and I think it's going to be the Dolphins or the Chargers. One of them is going to deal up, and they'll probably overpay for it because they're worried the other one's going to do it. So, yeah, and I'll say it'll be the Chargers. I say it will be the Chargers. They get Tua. I think Jalen Hurts goes in the 3rd round. I probably wouldn't draft him until like the 7th round, but the only way I'd take him in the 3rd round is if 2nd or 3rd round is if he'd be willing to play wide receiver, but he wants to play quarterback. Yeah. So that's the issue. If he would play receiver, you could do a lot of different things with him. I'll say the Big Ten over Alabama with first-round picks. I don't know why. I know they're going to have a couple of Ohio State guys go. Iowa could have a couple guys go in that first round, too. They've got one that's locked in, but that Epinesa, he could sneak in there at the end of the first round.
Yeah, I think Alabama has to go over if they're going to beat the Big Ten.
Right.
They're over 5.5. They'll have to.
Yeah, and I'll give the under.
On the Tigers?
Yeah.
I
think Gibson's the only one drafted.
He hates the Tigers. Yeah. Well, what we talked about earlier, I think it's a big problem because players like that, those players that are on the fringe, how much have you really gotten to know them? How much have you really gotten to dissect them?
Yeah.
I've actually thought about this kind of a little bit. I think in a way this will be better for teams is because you can't overthink. You got to go by film. You watch these guys on film play their college games, and that's what you got to go by.
Yeah.
So who produces? Who does the best?
I mean, and if you're Memphis, like a guy like Pat Taylor was hurt most of last year or didn't play a lot, so there's not a lot of film on him.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But I think like a late round guy, and I'll even throw this out there as Mr. Irrelevant. What if Joey Magnifico could go toward the end of the draft? That give you the over.
I think Joey can play in the NFL.
I do too, and I think a lot of teams need tight ends, and I think you're going to have some go early. But why not take a shot? Because you can get a really good college tight end as Mr. Irrelevant, and they can produce for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I like that prediction. That's
you
first
can,
Mr. Irrelevant prediction I've heard.
And you
nice.
can use, man, I wonder what the odds could be if you guessed Mr. Irrelevant correctly. If you bet on that and guessed it correctly,
Go to drive to Tunica.
Real impressive.
Well,
real
they're all
impressive.
closed.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Sorry.
All right, that's going to do it for us here on The Odds Couple. Great to be back. Great to see you guys again. Stay safe. Keep your social distancing and all that good stuff. Wash your hands. You know it by now. Also, we hope to be back. We don't know. We'll keep you posted when we'll be back. We'll be back when the sports are back.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe in June when the golf comes back. Maybe we'll have a big golf extravaganza for you. Tennis?
Like,
Good, yeah. Maybe some Taiwan baseball.
Soccer's coming back. Soccer's coming back.
Soccer's coming back. We'll be back. The Odds Couple will be back. Thanks for joining us this week. Enjoy the draft. For Kimball and Roser and Lang, I'm Fish. Well, stay safe. Enjoy the NFL draft this week.
You've been listening to The Odds Couple from the American Home Shield Studio on GrindCityMedia.com. Tune in next week for more football handicapping with Rob Fischer and Lang Whitaker.